doing online teaching.
All right. Almost 3:30. Someone from the organizing team, shall we start? Or
Can somebody make me a co-host?
TUADER representatives, hello.
Okay.
Let me.
Yep.
Okay. Great. Do we have the green light? Can we start? Well, I take the silence as confirmation. Hello, everyone. My name is Erdogan. I'm currently working in Team University in Uzbekistan, but I'm connecting from London right now. It is my great honor and privilege to introduce our dear Professor Katie Shu. It is important and exciting for me for many reasons, but Professor Shu was my co-supervisor. Under her watchful and attentive eyes, I have successfully completed my PhD, so I owe her and SHCM team greatly. So Professor Katie Shu is the chair professor of Hospitality and Tourism Marketing in the School of Hotel and Tourism Management at the Hong Kong Polytechnic University. Prior to joining SHTM in 2001, Professor Shu was teaching in several universities in USA for 12 years. She got her PhD and master's in Iowa State from Iowa State University. And as Professor Dimitris Bohalis mentioned, yes, sadly, there is a glass ceiling for women in academia, but Professor Shu is one of the truly pioneers, the ones that shatter that glass ceiling. She is a very prolific researcher, published more than 300 papers, and she is the current editor of Tourism Management Journal. She was successfully editor of tourism teaching. Sorry, let me be 100% correct about it. I don't want to make mistake. She was. Please, Professor, help me. She was the editor for 16 years, Journal of Teaching in Travel and Tourism. And she received Johnson Wiley & Sons Lifetime Research Award in 2009 and International Society of Travel and Tourism Educators Martin Opperman Memorial Award in 2011. She is a truly successful and pioneer academic, and it is my honor on behalf of the event. I would like to introduce and leave the floor to Professor Katie. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Erdogan, for the introduction. And I didn't know that I'm one of the pioneers, so thank you for saying that. And I would like to thank the organizer to give me this opportunity to share a little bit of Asian travel behavior in the new era. When I received the invitation, I asked the organizer, what do you want me to talk about? And I think it's Professor Otney indicated that something about Asian, something about travel behavior, and something about probably post-pandemic. So That's what I'm going to talk about. But later on, if we have time and if you have questions about tourism management, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. So that's what I'm going to talk about. And probably you have seen this PowerPoint slide template before. And this is our school on the right, and my office is right on top on the upper right-hand side. So you know where I am. So when we talk about Asian culture, or recently you may have heard of the term Asian paradigm. Basically, we're talking about the Asianness or Asianness. And what does that mean? It's basically those unique, distinctive, or specific characteristics that are particular to Asia or Asian people and to Asian society. And obviously, those characteristics are related to social cultural values, related to religion, related to history. And of course, when we look at the traditional values versus the modern values, they are quite different. Over time, obviously, cultural values could change, but those some of the core traditional values are still being upheld and practiced and appreciated even in modern day. And then, of course, as the time change, as the society change, then the group or the society would develop some modern values as well. So, and very often in the literature, we see the term of convergence of world culture. And basically, when we look at convergence, then we're more talking about the modern value. For example, the consumerism or people's, even for travel, it's a way of relaxing, it's a way of rewarding oneself. And so all of those are related to modern value rather than the traditional value. Even with the convergence of the world values, then we still have some distinctive cultures within Asia. And also Asia is a big geographic area. Obviously, there are a lot of differences from country to country within the Asian continent. And as you probably can appreciate, for example, different regions, sub-region within Asia, Southeast Asia, Northeast Asia, or between countries, Japan, Korea, China, and obviously they each have their unique characteristics as well. So it is a big topic, a big area, but I'll try to cover as much as possible. And Asia has received growing recognition for the hospitality and tourism businesses for excellence in service. These are just some of the hotels and airline brands that you probably see over the years that have been ranked very high on some of the global rankings in terms of service quality, in terms of luxury, in terms of the overall quality of services that they offer. And obviously there are more. And some of the brands come from Southeast Asia. A couple of them come from Hong Kong, Singapore, Thailand, for example, and Japan, India, Korea, and then the airlines on the right-hand side come from similar countries in Asia. So Asian consumers, as we can see from the very high quality brands that developed or originated from Asia, Asian consumers, you can say in a way that we are spoiled. We are spoiled by high quality services and new hotels and new infrastructure. Therefore, when Asian consumers travel outside of Asia, they usually have very high expectations of service quality wherever they go. Whether it's we've been spoiled by services, personalized services. In India, for example, they will do whatever they can to complete the service journey for the customers. Or if we're talking about a very sincere greeting from Thailand, whenever we go to Thailand, we feel that all the service personnel are so great, are so graceful, and then they will greet you with a very sincere smile. And even in a very productive, highly efficient society like Hong Kong, in this picture shows that this is the MTR, the train station. When we land in Hong Kong and we take a train station downtown, the minute we walk out of the train, carriages, we will see a whole line of push carts, luggage push carts lined up available for us rather than we each go out and try to grab or find a push cart somewhere in the terminal. So having that convenience, Asian consumers being spoiled in a sense, we expect that to happen wherever we go. Therefore, the comment is Asian consumers really have high expectations of service quality. A few more examples. This picture was taken in a hotel at a hotel front desk in Japan. They will provide reading glasses of different strengths for probably more mature consumers that when they read something, for example, you ask for direction, they give you a map where you check in, you need to fill out some form, you cannot see. Therefore, they provide the eyeglasses there. And this has been, I've observed this in multiple locations in multiple countries, whether it's in the bank or in some, even the hospital, you will see eyeglasses provided, reading glasses provided. So that attention to detail and the convenience and friendliness offered. And in some of the elevators, you will see a stool, just in case some people have the need to take a seat, right? After the day of shopping or because of their old age, they cannot stand for a very long time. So those tiny little things will all add up together to create a very personalized service environment. As simple as detailed as sugar packets. We all have coffee or tea in a restaurant, and sometimes you try to get a packet of sugar, but sometimes you get 2 or 3 instead because they're kind of hard to separate. In this particular restaurant, when they put the sugar packets in the tray, they do that on the right, left sequence so that you can very easily just pick up one and they look nice. They look very well arranged. So it's that attention to detail that going back to the comment earlier that Asian consumers are probably spoiled. And when we look at the UNWTO tourism forecast, starting from 2010, we see a tremendous growth, a very fast-paced growth of the Asia and Pacific. This is the international tourist arrival received. Not only Asia grow as a source market, Asia also grow as destination for a lot of that is intra-Asia. For example, people from Hong Kong going to Singapore, Singapore going to Thailand, the intra-Asia traffic, but quite a bit of that is from outside of Asia as well. And obviously, Europe is still the largest destination in terms of receiving the number of tourists, but Asian markets, destinations certainly grow quickly as well in the past 10 years or so. And this is the visitor expenditure, right? When we look at people going outside of their country, outbound travel, international travel, and that was in 2019, before the COVID pandemic. As you can see, China was the #1 country in terms of international visitor expenditure. Many countries within Asia or outside of Asia, China usually was ranked one of the top 5, if not even higher in terms of their tourism receipts. So globally, in 2019, Chinese outbound travelers accounted for 17% of the global market share, followed by the United States as a distant second. So in Asia, we look at both outbound and inbound. They both are quite important now on the world stage. When we look at Asian tourism 2022 today, most countries have opened their doors to foreign travelers except Greater China and probably Japan. Japan, I think, only opens to business travelers at the current time. While the world is opening up, and I understand, for example, Turkey has been opening to international travelers, and of course the Western country, US, UK, and many other countries have completely opened. Some of the Asian countries, for example, Thailand was the first one, and then Singapore opened up, and lately Korea opened up as well. However, the Greater China area is still closed, right? Until today, I can tell you that Hong Kong still practice a very strict COVID measure, and there are 7 countries that we don't have any flight to or from, right? And hopefully that will change in April. So most of the country have relaxed their quarantine requirement as well. And then because of the relaxation, developed countries in Asia have shown a very explosive growth in terms of outbound travel. For example, Korea. Korea opened up to inbound and outbound. Therefore, a lot of Koreans now started traveling overseas. For example, Hawaii would be a very popular destination, and then the Southeast Asia as well, right? So the potential is there. Many people have talked about the pent-up demand, or in some countries they call it revenge travel. In other words, we have not been able to travel for such a long time. When the borders open, really people will rush out to travel to make up for the lost time. However, earlier I mentioned that China was the #1 global source market in terms of the tourism expenditure. We probably will not see any Chinese outbound travelers this year, right? In other words, the mainland Chinese probably will not be able to travel overseas until sometime next year. So when we look at restarting tourism travel and hospitality within China, since this year they probably won't be able to travel outside of mainland China, not even to Hong Kong, Macau, yes, not even to Hong Kong or other area, then domestic travel becomes very, very important. So when we look at the Labor Day holiday last year in May, during the May 1st of May, that Labor Day holiday, they have a 10-year period of national holiday. That number, when we look at the 230 million travelers, domestic travelers within mainland China, that number actually surpassed the pre-pandemic, that was in 2019. Obviously 2020, that number went down quite a bit, but last year the number went back up, right? And based on that number, basically 16% of the population traveled during the labor holiday last year. So again, the potential is there, the demand is there, it's just that the border is not open yet. So that was the picture of last year, last May. Again, people have probably seen this on some of the media before the pandemic, but then that was last year. So where do they go? What are the popular forms of travel? I don't know if you've heard of red tourism, but that's quite popular nowadays in mainland China. They visit some of the old locations that has history related to the revolution, the establishment of the country, related to the Communist Party's development over the years. So it's more of a patriotic travel type of preferences. So in addition to that, we'll also see a lot of ecotourism related activities. For example, the tea culture, they would like to go out to look at the flower blossom at different time of the year. A lot of walking or hiking, going up to the mountain, rural tourism, and probably you've read about the ecotourism, rural tourism, because people now would like to go outside. They enjoy outdoor activities more because of the COVID. They feel like outdoor is safer, and also they haven't been outside because of the quarantine measures. Music seems to be a big thing now. A lot of festivals and concerts and events. So events now have become quite popular, important in China. Behavioral changes that we see, a lot more multi-generational travel. Again, people realize that, family is really important. Because of the pandemic, because of the sickness some people experience, and some of their family members may have passed away because of the COVID. Therefore, they realize the importance of multi-generation family units. So multi-generational travel has increased quite significantly. And then leisure, private, customized, smaller groups. In the past, usually we think of Chinese traveler, we think of coaches, right? 40, 50 people in a group, or at least in the 20s or 30s. But now people are demanding smaller groups. For example, 10 to 15 people, probably they feel more comfortable in terms of the flexibility and also less crowdedness within a coach. High-end hotel, boutique hotels are in high demand. Again, people now are willing to spend. They feel like I haven't spent anything in the past 2 years, or life is short, therefore I should enjoy the moment. And that's what I was talking about, the modern values. Living the moment seems to be a modern value now comparing to the past generations' thriftiness. So that's a change from traditional value to modern value. So high-end hotel, boutique hotels are doing quite well. On the top right, this is a Rosewood Hotel in Beijing. For the Valentine's Day, they had a very expensive package, but that was sold very quickly. And a lot of the homestay, right? Private owned, maybe 10 to 20 unit farmhouses converted into homestays. These are quite high end and they're very popular as well. Since 2019, because of the pandemic, people are more used to doing everything online. And now the OTA booking is up by 30%. It was quite high already. Now it's up by 30% comparing to 2019. So people now are more digital oriented comparing to even 2 years ago. Glamping is another growing market segment. A lot of very luxurious camping sites now have been developed over the past 2-3 years. Again, talking about China, and they have a lot of activities and a lot of learning, outdoor, and very elaborate itinerary being arranged from the young to the old to some of the target to the mice as well, for corporate, for training, for team building, things like that. So when we look at Chinese outbound travel, this was obviously, when we look at the numbers, it grew steadily until 2019. In 2019, the number of outbound traveler was 170 million, and the top destinations are pretty much within Asia. 95% are within Asia, and outside of Asia, US, UK, Australia, Canada were the top destinations, right? So when we move forward, when the mainland Chinese travelers can go outside of mainland, obviously safety is very important, and COVID-free destination will be on top of the list. Like I mentioned earlier, many of the Western destinations and many other destinations have opened up, even though there are still a lot of reported COVID cases on a daily basis. However, the mentality in China is quite different. The government takes COVID very seriously. Even with a few cases, they will lock down a section of a city, or in some cases, if there are hundreds of cases in a city, then obviously they lock down the entire city and they do the testing for everyone multiple times. So it's a different mentality. So understanding the behavior, culture, value, mentality of another country is really, really important moving forward, especially for China, because it was the #1 market in terms of global tourism spending. So moving forward, if your destination would like to get a share of the mainland Chinese market, obviously you need to understand what they're thinking. So simply talking about the COVID situation, the mentality is very, very different. So having a safe destination, COVID-free destination is absolutely important, because that's on top of their mind. When they're at home, even 1 or 2 cases, that's a big thing, right? And they would definitely want to avoid very crowded destinations. So good news for some of the less popular destinations in the past. And also within a destination, there could be opportunity for alternative itinerary planning so that not everybody go to the same location, same attraction at the same time. Hygiene of accommodations. Hotel industry as a whole have taken that very seriously. International brands have a lot of measures in terms of how to sanitize the hotel and doing this or that, but absolutely that is important. Transparency in pricing. This has been emerging even since 2018, 2019. We did some studies on Chinese travelers in terms of their choices, preferences. Transparency in pricing came up all the time. Even though a lot of the package tours take Chinese tourists to do some compulsory shopping, but that was absolutely hated by the tourists. So they go with the package, but they have no choice. However, they're not happy. Obviously, we want to make sure that tourists visiting your destinations are satisfied with the package and services provided. So that's something that may take this opportunity to take a look at how do we package things in the future so that there could be options, right? So, and also the add-ons. The add-ons should be optional rather than compulsory, and obviously transparency in pricing upfront. According to the latest survey, only 25% of the mainland travelers would rely on travel agencies for outbound travel. In other words, that's again very different from the traditional stereotype of mainland travelers going overseas always follow that little flag of the tour guide and everybody travel in a big group. Now, the latest survey shows that only a quarter of them would rely on travel agencies. In other words, in the past few years, the social media developed so quickly. There's so many different sources of information. There are a lot of travel apps. There are a lot of travel streaming programs, and therefore they get a lot of information on the individual basis. Therefore, lesser and lesser people, fewer and fewer people will rely on travel agencies, even for outbound travel. When the door open, when the door of when the travel opens, first destinations that they would like to go are obviously short haul, because they would like to take shorter trips. 4 to 7 days was the most popular. Probably 30 some percent, let's say 8 to 14 days. But if you look at 1 to 3 days and 4 to 7 days, that's the majority, right? And with these, then they can probably only go to short haul destinations. Psychologically, short haul destination make them feel safer, and functionally, they probably don't have that many days on holiday to go to a very long haul destination like the US or the UK. But within Asia, or I think the Middle East will be, including Turkey, will be very accessible for the Chinese travelers when the door opens. In terms of international destinations, what can they do to get ready once the door opens next year, I would think? Social media, very, very important. Destination website, right? Those are the sources of information. Social media, including some of the popular platforms used by the source market, and also now with a lot of bloggers and vloggers and those very popular programs on the social media, definitely they will be a very important, very influential source of information. So cannot rely on the traditional messaging, but rather going everything online. The consumers are tech savvy. Again, if we're talking about mainland tourists and Asian tourists, probably to a similar extent, they're open to the health travel passport concept. For people in mainland China, that's a daily life already. Wherever they go, they need to go with their phone because their health code is in their phone. Wherever they go, they have to scan the code. If they get a green code, that means go. If they get a yellow code, that means they can't go to many places, right? And in Hong Kong, we're adopting that as well to a lesser extent. We have to scan a QR code when we go to a restaurant, when we go to a shopping mall. so that in case some cases emerge at those places, then we will get a notification to say, hey, you probably should get tested just in case. So I think Asian consumers are very used to having those mobile devices and as part of the house travel passport. The house travel passport could include whether you're positive, negative, but also your vaccination records and some of the other records as well. Digital form of payment that was already very popular pre-COVID. Many countries already accept, for example, the WeChat Pay or the Alipay. I understand many, not only Asian destinations, Western destinations accept them as well, and they will become just, I wouldn't even say popular, I would say that's expected for any destinations that mainland Chinese go travel nowadays. And then apps. Any destination who would like to attract Asian consumers, particularly Chinese consumers, apps is absolutely necessary. They get all the information from the apps. Okay. There is a concern, however, by quite a portion of the Chinese and Asian, to a certain extent, travelers or potential travelers, that's the destination's friendliness to Chinese or to an Asian face, because many reportings have happened in Western countries, for example, in the US or some other Western countries, that the Asian face seems to get some discriminatory look or attitudes or even behavior. So a friendliness to the Chinese or to the Asian consumers, probably that should be part of the marketing message conveying to the source market if Asian and Chinese consumers are part of the target market for international destination, right? Cleanliness, as I mentioned earlier, it's very, very important. Just to give you an example of how we do it, I showed you a big building earlier, and that's our school. And behind that building or on top of the building is the hotel icon where our student practice, and also it's owned by the university hotel icon. So how cleanliness now become a marketing priority because it is important. Consumer thinks that that's important, therefore that's an attribute that we need to do well and we need to sell based on that attribute. So now how cleanliness now is becoming a marketing priority for our hotel. And we collaborate with a company called Air Defender, and basically they come up with the equipment and the solution to let us coat all the interior, and then we will monitor the virus count on a weekly basis and report back. So it's a collaboration between the school, the hotel, and the company to test that coating. And then we will do monitoring over time to see if it actually works. And then we will look at hotel customers' attitude and how much more worrying or less worrying they are when they see the Air Defender mark. So that's part of the teaching research collaboration with the hotel and the Air Defender company. And also we use UV lights. Once we clean the room with UV lights and spray everything with the Air Defender, then we will put a sale on the door. So when the customer check in, then they know they're the first one to open the door after the sanitation exercise. And also we leave this piece of information to the customer who check into the hotel to tell them that there are 13 high-touch spots that have been cleaned before their arrival, and we identify those spots based on customer feedback, right? So we did a brainstorming session with the customers on where they worry about the most in the hotel room that they think could have potential cleanliness issue, and then based on that, we show them these are the areas that we have cleaned, sanitized particularly, and also in our hotel. Each room has its own ventilation system. It's not a central air system. And we can control the airflow. So now actually hotel icon is known by the customers that All the rooms have negative air pressure. It's kind of like a hospital, a COVID patient ward that you have negative air pressure so that outside virus cannot go into your room. So all of these are efforts to make sure and to communicate with the customers that the rooms are clean, they're safe to stay in the rooms. Because of customers' worry and because of their expectation that a hotel room should be clean, right? So, so with all the challenges, I think this is a great opportunity as well, because consumer behaviors have changed, expectations have changed, but as long as we understand what are the changes, what do they value more now comparing to 2 years ago, and because of the changing value as well. So there could be new opportunities for new products, new services, new ways of communication, and definitely new ways of new platforms of marketing. Therefore, the possibilities are endless. So I will stop here and see if there's any question that I can answer. So, Erdogan, do you, I don't know if there's any.
I just got unmuted. Thank you very much, Professor. It was truly very interesting to see what you are in Hong Kong going through, and it was great. Your examples were very amazing from the camping experience, small groups, what Chinese consumers are going through, thinking. As someone under your supervision and Dr. Norman Au's supervision did some Chinese tourist behavior related PhD, it is really nice to see the updates. And if I may, while I'm waiting the questions from the audience, you mentioned that expectations change significantly due to COVID and after COVID reality. If I may ask, how do you think the researchers in general should approach these changes and turn them into more from the real life, if I may dare to say, to more to the classrooms, to the hands of the researcher audience? What kind of advices you can give for research direction of these new changes?
Okay. I think there are a lot of research opportunities because of the pandemic. A lot of things have changed. Some of the concepts that we have taken for granted, definition may have changed. In the past, trust could mean one thing, and now we probably need to redefine trust. What does it mean by trust, right? The examples that I gave earlier, I'm simply saying the expectations are different. Therefore, the service quality in the past may not be comprehensive enough. We understand the serve qual and some of the quality issues have been researched for probably 30 years or longer, but now the expectations are different. Therefore, that's a research opportunity to find out what do they expect now. And obviously, consumer behaviors are different. The choices that they made are different. The emotions are different. So yeah, a lot of opportunities, I think. Just coming up with new definition will be something new already.
Okay, sorry. Thank you very much. That was quite useful directions. I am looking for the chat. There are a couple of praises for your research, but I didn't see any direct questions. If there is no more question, to wrap up, to departing words, do you have any final recommendations, Professor?
Well, in terms of the research, I understand the previous session, some audience member has some questions about research. I think I understand the previous session was talking about AI. From the tourism management perspective, we also receive a lot of big data studies in the past couple of years, especially a lot of big data, online review, GIS tracking, and all of those, right? Those are great. However, I would like to remind all of us, including myself, that when we do research, whatever data you use, that is only the methodology. Whether it's survey, qualitative, big data, a lot of fancy charts and all that, that's only methodology. So the question that we need to answer should be real life issues. And then obviously the research that we do as academic, we should contribute to theoretical advancement, right? So you have a lot of data, then what does that mean? How can the data help us push the knowledge boundary forward? I guess that's the more important issue. Obviously, real life solution is important for the practitioners, but I'm talking from the scholar perspective. As a researcher, we want to push the knowledge boundary. So I shouldn't say this, you don't get overexcited about some of the fancy methods. They're great, right? I don't discourage you to use that. That's the trend. That's great. But beyond that, we have to think about the theory, the advancement, how do we push the knowledge forward? It's just like SEM 10, 15, 20 years ago. Everybody was excited about SEM, but that's only a method.
Yes.
Right? Same as big data.
You're right. We have Dr. Faizan Ali as a question. You, in the case of Professor Xu, said that COVID is changing things, but we hear terms like will we go back to normal? So do you think the changing nature of trust, service quality will go back to the pre-COVID times?
It may in 5 to 10 years, but I don't think it will go away that quickly because this is such a long-lasting event. It's not like the bird flu or the SARS, let's say, almost 20 years ago. It came and went very shortly in a few months. But when you have an event that is 2 or 3 years long, that has an impact on people. So yeah, people may forget about it 5 years from now if nothing else happened. After 5 years, people may forget about it little by little, but I don't think that will happen very quickly. So I think the changes will be here for at least 3 to 5 years, if not longer.
We have another audience member, Dr. Mahmoud Baltacı. When do you think that China will open the doors for international travels? Thank you very much for sharing your ideas.
Yeah, I don't have a crystal ball, but we in Hong Kong was very hopeful that the door will open in March. Everybody was saying that after the Winter Olympics, it will be relaxed a little bit, and then here comes another wave. So the door got closed very quickly, very tightly. And people were talking about maybe after summer, will open in phases, probably business travelers first, definitely not tourists. Even nowadays, we cannot go to mainland China, right? So for people, even for business travelers who have to go there, if they have to go through the 3 week, now if I want to go to mainland, first of all, I don't have a visa. If I can go, I have to go through 28 days of quarantine, right? So tourists will not be willing to do that. For business travelers, maybe. If you're going there to sign a $10 million contract, maybe you're willing to do that, but tourists, no. So it will be in phases. People can probably travel to China for leisure toward the end of the year, maybe, but I'm looking more like next year.
Finger crossed, because China not only the biggest tourist generating destination, but also it's an amazing country and people are looking forward to go back and visit.
Sure.
I think these are all the questions. Thank you very much, Professor Xu. For the audience, On behalf of everyone, I appreciate your insights. We really enjoy. And I've been requested to remind that this session is live on YouTube now, and it will be available for future watch through the conference website. Thank you very much, Professor Shu.
All right, thank you, Ruben. Good to see you.
All right. I think next is the break. After the break, the workshop, afternoon workshops will continue at 3:30. Scale development and validation. Professor Babak and Professor Gürel. Thank you very much for everyone.
Thank you.